Hey everybody, how y'all doing? FG here, and I am here with another little kind of update for you on the series that we are going to be starting. It is going to be a Madden 18 ultra realistic franchise starting over on Twitch. So if you guys want to be a part of this, please go over to twitch.tv/franchise guy, all one word, all lowercase letters. And you'll be able to follow along with this series, possibly be a part of it through another series that I'm going to be doing. However, I'm just going to take the Dolphins here just to show you guys what we're working with. It doesn't mean I'm going to be the Dolphins. I'm just showing you an example of what is going to happen. What we are going to do is I am going to be using the cloud. I am going to be doing this on the cloud, and I am going to be doing it to advance as far into the future as I can. It may or may not have the Super Bowl being simulated by the time I actually start it, or it might already have the results of the Super Bowl and I'll be able to start into the offseason. We'll see what happens, but right now I want to show you the teams that are in consideration for this franchise, and I want to pretty much announce a poll that's going to be in the video, so you guys will be able to vote on this poll right here in the video. I'm going to announce 5 teams that have a chance to be the team that we use for this franchise. Okay, the first team is the Cincinnati Bengals. As you can see, with these rosters, they have a cap space of $38.8 million. Okay, as we look through, I will give you guys some of the pros and cons of using the team. Okay, Andy Dalton. This is a pro of using the team because we want to make it tough for me. And this guy, you can't get rid of him. I mean, look at the cap penalty of getting rid of Andy Dalton. The only time that you would probably get rid of this guy is in 2019 or 2020, one of these 2 years. So I know we're going through this season, so we at least are going to have to play with him for 2018. So for season 1 of this rebuild, we will have to play games with Andy Dalton, probably. Unless we can find somebody better than him, and then he would be the backup. Okay, a con is having Joe Mixon, because if you give me a guy like this, if you're giving me Joe Mixon, I can do some damage. And he's locked up for a pretty long time. So I'd have to make him good, and he would be good. Gio Bernard as fresh legs also helps. I mean, that's a pretty good tandem. We would lose Jeremy Hill in the offseason. I wouldn't plan on re-signing him. We'd probably lose the rest of these backs, but it wouldn't really be a big deal. Oh, sorry. I skipped. Okay, no fullback on the team. We would find one. We would make the offense use a fullback occasionally. AJ Green, this is a bad contract, but he's a great player. And he'll still be a good player by the time his contract is up. So I don't really see a problem with having him there at a 91 speed for an outside 6'4" receiver. That's pretty good. The LaFell contract I do not like. He is slow. I wouldn't even want to use this guy. To be honest, I'd want to have other people. I would probably use Tyler Boyd over him, and I would definitely use John Ross over him. That's another con about using the Bengals, is giving me John Ross is giving me a huge weapon. You're giving me a 98 speed receiver. Also, you're giving me Josh Malone, who I would probably move to tight end and use him as a receiving threat at tight end, because he goes up to like an 80 or something like that, and I would probably use him in that role. Tyler Kroft is a decent tight end. We would probably lose Tyler Eifert in the offseason. I'm not going to lie. I probably wouldn't bring him back. Looking at the line, this is a pro because the offensive line is not very good on this team. So we would have to build up an offensive line, and I'd probably take a lot of sacks in the series, especially since I kind of plan on using all Madden. We'll see. Carlos Dunlap is a good player. He's got 2 years left. It's a perfect contract, to be honest. Lawson and Willis are good players to use. Michael Johnson is going to be terrible at the end of his contract, but we might be able to get rid of him in the offseason. His penalty might not be that big. Geno Atkins is another guy we might be able to ship off. and field some offers for. Again, being that this is ultra realistic, I am going to put the guys on the trade block that I would want to get rid of and take whatever the computer is offering. I cannot go in and manual trade and take whatever I want from people. Vontaze Burfict, this is a perfect contract because he has 4 years left and he is 26. So when he is 30 and no good anymore, he will be gone anyways, which is great. And then corners, they actually have two good contracts right here with Denard and Jackson. Kirkpatrick is a terrible deal. 5 years being signed at a 76 overall for the money he's being signed for is very bad. The Pac-Man Jones deal is awful as well. He's got 2 more years left. We'll have to see if we can get rid of that contract, possibly. The Aloka contract I do not like. 4 years at 27 years of age. He's not that fast, and he's got a big penalty on him, so we've got to use him, and I don't really like him. And then Williams isn't a terrible contract. Sean Williams is okay. At least he's got some speed to him. He's got 4 years left. We'll probably at least use him for 2 or 3 of them. And then their special teams is their special teams. For their draft picks, they do have an extra 7th round draft pick this season. So it's all the original draft picks with a 7th round draft pick. So that's not too bad. So the Bengals are option 1. Option 2 is the Denver Broncos. Okay, the Denver Broncos don't have a quarterback, and they have 3 of them signed. So Trevor Siemian with 1 more year, his penalty is not that much. I mean, I could easily look to off him if I wanted to. I could easily look to off probably any of these quarterbacks except Paxton Lynch. So maybe Paxton Lynch would be the starter, or we would draft somebody, but it's easy to get my own quarterback in. That's a little bit of a con. They're also giving me C.J. Anderson here, which is a very good back, though doesn't fit my style. So that's a little bit of a pro. You'd be giving me a halfback that doesn't really fit the way I like to play. Devontae Booker also doesn't fit the way that I like to play the game. Janovich, not a great fullback, but he's all right. A pro also is giving me 2 very old receivers here, albeit good ones. Demaryius Thomas is a good receiver. Emmanuel Sanders is a good receiver. They're both quick developments, but that's not going to matter because they're both old, and the contracts are really bad here. The penalties are really bad, so we'd have to at least keep them probably for year 1, maybe even through the length of their contracts, and then get rid of them. So receivers kind of locked in. Tight ends, there's no real terrible deals or anything where we have a lot of fluid movement there. Garrett Bowles is terrible. We would have to make this man work somehow. I don't know if we move him on the line or what we do, but we'd have to make that draft pick work out. Leary, we have to make him work out. He's an 84. He's signed for 4 complete years, 3 years in this rebuild. Got to make him work out. Manelik Watson. This is a terrible contract. Oh, why does it keep doing that to me? It's a terrible contract. He's making way too much. But hopefully we only have to deal with him on our roster for 1 season. Garrett Wolfe is making way too much money. But at least he's a decent enough player to the point where we can use him at some capacity. What the fuck is going on? All right. Pecco is a bad deal as well, but his bonus isn't that high. So maybe after 1 year we can kind of cut him or do something with him. Von Miller, albeit a fantastic player, I'm hoping he doesn't regress quick in this game. He'll have 4 years left with us at the age of 29, so hopefully at 33 he won't be awful. Same thing, Brandon Marshall will have 3 years left with us at the age of 28, so hopefully he'll be decent enough for us. And this is the big problem. We have a 31-year-old corner, soon to be 32, that will be signed with us for another 2 years, so that's rough. And then we'll have a 29-year-old corner signed for 2 years with us. So his contract might be perfect. His might be terrible, at least for the last season. He might be a cap casualty. We'll see. Simmons is okay. Darian Stewart is an awful contract. This is bad. The penalty's really bad. The money's really bad. The years are really bad. His age is really bad. And his speed and everything really doesn't fit either. McManus is locked up for 4 years, which, you know what, I'm not going to complain about. I know he has a big penalty for some reason for a kicker, but he has 97 kick power, so that's fine. I'm not that upset about him. And the Broncos have an extra 4th-round pick this season and an extra 5th-round pick. So that's a little bit of a con. You'd be giving me a couple extra picks with a team that actually has a lot of good players on it, albeit they're pretty old and expensive. But they do have $32.2 million in cap space anyway. But that is the second option. The third option, a lot of people wanted the Cardinals, and I took the Cardinals out of contention, and I will tell you why. Okay, Larry Fitzgerald's probably going to retire. Carson Palmer's probably going to retire. So you're giving me an opportunity to draft my own quarterback and receiver. That's going to give me a good hookup. Plus, you're giving me David Johnson already to start with. You're giving me one of the most dynamic players in this game. Plus a quarterback and a receiver if I can draft them. Or sign them in free agency, which Drew Brees is usually available. So if I did something like that, yeah, the Cardinals would be too much kill. So that's the only reason I took them off the board, okay? I had the Bills on the board. I took them off because they have an extra 1st round, 2nd round, and 3rd round pick this year, and I don't want to start with that many draft picks. So I think those two reasons are pretty fair. The Dolphins are the 3rd choice on the board. Now, the con is that they are my team. It is probably, a little bit of a temptation to overdo it with them because they're my team, so I would say that's probably the biggest con. But they have so many pros, and that's why I left them on this. I figured some of you guys, if you really want to give me a hard rebuild to do realistically, this would be a team to do it with because they're starting with $20.4 million in cap space. Okay, they have an extra 7th-round pick, which may not be much, but, you could draft a pretty good fullback with that or something, a kicker, a punter, whatever you happen to need. But this right here, these are all the pros. We are strapped with Ryan Tannehill. Ryan Tannehill is on this team. He'll have 3 years left when we start the rebuild here in the offseason at the age of 30. So we will have to keep him until he's at least probably 31, 32 years old before we're able to get rid of him. All right, and then halfback, you're giving me Kenyon Drake, which is kind of a con, but there's nobody else signed, so it's kind of rough there. They have no fullback. I will probably have to get rid of Jarvis Landry. We won't really have the money to bring him back, and I don't believe in paying big money to receivers like that, and we're already paying Kenny Stills. Albeit he's a decent receiver, but he's being way overpaid, and you can see that right here, and his money's too much to cut him. Devontae Parker doesn't have an insurmountable contract, but he's going to have to stay for at least another year. And then Julius Thomas is strapping this team down. Look at all this money here to a tight end who's 29 years old, and he'll be 30 when we start it with 2 more years left. So that's a little bit rough. Tunsil, we have to make work, even though he's only a 79 normal. So we got to make this man work. He is signed for 3 years. I know he doesn't have a huge contract, but, if you look at the rest of the line, look at Larson. Signed for 3 years with bonus. That's awful. Pouncey, 4 years. Look at how much money. $8 million, 11 on the final year. That is strapping. Old Bushrod, we got to make Asiata work out as a draft pick. We've got to keep Jawan James, and we've got to try and make Smith work. We got to try and make Eric Smith work. So some of that is really bad. Cameron Wake will either be retired or traded at the end of the year. Hayes will probably walk, so we've got no end. Branch is an awful deal look at all these millions of dollars that he's making. All right, this is an awful deal. I don't know why they signed him like this. Look at that. Ugh, terrible. We were going to try and make Charles Harris work because we need him to. Looking at defensive tackle, Godshaw is a nice little find. But Ndamukong Suh, or Donkey Kong Suh as I like to call him, look at the money that he's making. Now, I'm not saying he won't be worth it, but he is already 30 for 4 more years. So 3 more years when we start the rebuild, he'll be 31. That's going to be rough. Misi will be gone, probably, unless we can find a way to re-sign him. Again, we only have $20.4 million, and everybody's money's going to end up going up. Timmons will still be here, and he's god-awful. I don't like him. And then we've got McMillan, who we got to make work out. Look at these horrible middle linebackers. Kiko Alonso, look at the money. $5 million. I mean, it's like the Dolphins get desperate to get somebody in a position, and they pay him like crazy. I mean, this guy should not be making that much money. Okay, so we've got to, use him. And then the corners, I mean, this is bad. I mean, look at all this. Byron Maxwell is out. So you've got these guys. We've got to make these work. There's not a lot of money here. Xavier Howard is the only one making some money. But McDonald, look at this contract. 5 years, 5 remaining. He's 26 years old, which isn't a bad age, but he's just not a very good player. I mean, we've got to try and make him work out with all the money that he's making, and he'll have 4 years remaining at 27. That's going to be rough. And then Rashad Jones is going to be 30. He'll have 5 years left at the age of 30, making $8.66 million. He'll be impossible to get rid of, and he'll be more of a free safety than a strong safety when we start this rebuild. Okay, kicker and punter is not a big deal. We can cut them, we can sign them, it doesn't really matter. But the Dolphins are really tough in cap and age. I mean, cap and age is an issue on that team. So they're their third choice. The fourth choice out of 5 will be the Detroit Lions. Now, if you take a look at the Detroit Lions, they have $43.5 million in cap space. They have all of their original draft picks, so no extra draft picks for me to work with at all. All right, their problem is that they're sitting here with Matthew Stafford at an 87 quick, all right, which is all right. I mean, he's a good quarterback, 98 throwing power. I could do a lot with that. However, he'll be signed for 5 more years at the age of 30. With a shit ton of money. Okay? Decisions will be made on him during the series. Okay, we've got Theo Riddick. Not the kind of back I like to use at all. All right, 87 speed, and he'll be signed for a couple years, at least in this rebuild. Abdullah, who is a guy I would more like to use, will probably be gone at some point in the series. Wide receivers, Golden Tate probably won't be an issue. He'll probably be gone right when he's not any good. And then Marvin Jones hopefully will hang on for us for those 3 years at the age of 28 to be somewhat worth it. Ebron's a great player, but we might end up losing him during the series. Decker we've got to make work out. The rest of these contracts aren't horrible. Lang could be bad. He's making a lot of money. But he's a decent enough player that I think he'll last long enough. Wagner's the same. I mean, he's got a long contract with a lot of money again, too. But I think he's young enough that he can make it at least as an offensive lineman. They usually last a long time. I'm not seeing a lot of other problems here. A lot of these contracts are escapable. We've got to make Jared Davis work. Slay is in his prime. He's a good corner. We need to find a partner for him. This is the bad contract right here. Glover Quinn. I know he's an 89, but he's 31. How much longer is he going to be an 89 for? We're going to have him for a couple more years, so we'll see. But he's still a decent enough player at least. Prater is making the dough, and he's 33 years old, but at least he's got some kicking power. I don't mind him. And then Martin's making dough. They're paying their special teams for sure. So we will not be drafting any of that. But that's the Lions in a nutshell. I think it's a pretty, okay team to do a rebuild with. And then the final team in consideration, we did consider the Raiders for a little bit, but they've got way too much offensive talent for me to be able to take them over, even though their cap is in dire straits. If you notice, only $17 million in cap, and all that cap money promised to a lot of their decent enough players. But we have the Redskins as the final choice. Okay, and the Redskins are the final choice. They have $39 million in cap space. They have an extra 7th round pick this year. Kirk Cousins might be walking. He may very well be walking, and we'll have to find a quarterback. That could be a pro, could be a con. I mean, however you look at it, it could be a con because I can find my own quarterback very fast. But if you look, we're pretty much going to have to make decisions at running back. I hate Robert Kelly. I don't like the speed at all. Samaje Perine, pretty much the same. And Chris Thompson is okay, I guess, to me. But somebody's going to be on the damn team, right? So that's rough. At receiver, Doxson, I don't love his contract. I really don't love Doxson's contract, but he is only 24. So we got to try and make him work out. Then you have Jordan Reed, who is a worth it contract, in my opinion. However, Vernon Davis, at the age of 33, signed for all them years, 2 more years at this rebuild. He may end up retiring before he gets cut loose. And then Trent Williams is 29. He should be able to maybe make it till 33 as a good enough player, but he's only a 91 overall, so I don't know how quickly they're going to make him regress. The rest of the line, Scherf is okay. We're in danger of losing him, and I don't like that. Moses is signed for a very long time. He's young enough that it could last, but we've got to make him work. We've got to get him to develop. But the rest, that offensive line could use some work. McGee is an awful deal. If you look at this, the penalty, the money he's going to make for 4 more years when we start this rebuild at 28 years old is just not good. McLean, the same way. 4 years. I mean, he'll have 3 more years at the age of 30 making all that money. That is not good. So a couple defensive end, terrible, poor contracts. Kerrigan, yes, he's a good player. He's an 89 overall. He's a quick, but he's going to be 30. He's going to have 3 years left on his deal, and he's making a shit ton of money. Middle linebacker, they don't really have issues here. We've got to find a way to bring Brown back this year to keep him going. We got to find a way to bring Murphy back probably, or we just let Preston Smith take over. But they don't have a lot of issues on those 2 positions. Fuller is a good player. I'll keep him for the entire 3 years or 2 years once we start the rebuild. Dunbar, I'll probably keep him his entire time too. A lot of these corners could develop. The Norman deal is a bad deal, though. I know he's a superstar. I know he's going to be 30, and he's going to have 3 more years left. So at the age of 33, I mean, we might get rid of him on this final year at in 2020. And then free safety, we've got Nicholson. He signed up for a while. That's fine. And then these 2 guys will both have 2 years on them. Cravens and Swearinger, which they're not bad players, so they're worth every penny. And they have Tress Way locked up for a while, which, let me see. Yeah, I don't have a problem with that with 98 kick power. So there you go. Those are the 5 teams in the running. Bengals, Broncos, Dolphins, Lions, and Redskins. We will be doing an ultra-realistic franchise with one of those teams. So you can go ahead in the card of the video. You see the little eye icon in a circle on the top right of the video. You can click that, and you can vote on which team you want to see us use for that. And it will, of course, be done, as I said in the beginning of the video, over on Twitch. So please go follow me, twitch.tv/franchise guy, all one word, franchise guy together, all lowercase letters, and it will be over there that we will be starting it, and probably the first video will probably either be posted, if not this Friday, it will be next Friday. Thank you guys very much for watching this video, and I will see you guys on the next one.